1. Well, this happened over the weekend. On Saturday morning, decided I better get this story out there because this is one of my more extreme fuck-ups. I've been wanting to take my family camping for some time. Well, this past weekend, I finally convinced my wife that it would be a blast. The kids were much easier to convince. A 2- and 3-year-old get to go to sleep in the woods. Sounds awesome, Dad. Now, if I was going to camp, I wanted to do it right. No campsites, toilets, or water. We were going deep into the woods. After some searching, I found a 2,600-acre WMA near our house and decided that we would hike in and camp there. I checked with the ranger station on where we could camp. Anywhere you want, just leave the place like you found it. That sounded easy enough, and we were heading out on Friday for our adventure. We parked on the side of a dirt road and hiked about a mile into the woods. We found a nice clear area and set up camp. At this point in the story, I will skip all of the fun we had the first night. In short, it was a blast. The FU comes the next morning. When I woke up, I decided it was time to make my family a quality campsite breakfast. I started a fire and got some hot coals going. Then I brought out a pan and made some eggs and sausage. Then I started the coffee in a percolator and woke up the fam. Everyone loved the breakfast, and I thought that the weekend was off to a great start. After breakfast, we decided to go out for a hike. I packed up a bag with waters and lunch and poured about half a gallon of water on the hot coals. The fire extinguished and seemed to be out. But let me tell you, that sneaky little bastard was not out. We went on the hike and had a great time, and after a few hours started to head back to camp. When we got close to camp, we started to smell smoke. And that is when I knew something was wrong. I started to run, and when I came around the corner, I saw our campsite up in flames. There was around a 60-foot diameter circle of blackened ground, and our chairs, garbage, and supplies were up in flames. I don't know what got into me, but I immediately jumped into action. All I could think about was containing the perimeter. Most of the large fires were towards the center of the circle, but there was a ring of fire about 2 feet high spreading outwards on the outer ring. Luckily, I had the metal pan from breakfast in my bag, and I immediately started running about the circle of fire. I used a combination of scooping dirt over the flames, scraping away the flammable ground cover, and beating down the flames with the pan itself. My wife and boys were watching from the dirt road, and the boys started to cry. After about 30 minutes of this, I stopped the fire from moving outwards, and now was feeling much better. There were still fires burning in the perimeter, but they were contained, and I could take my time putting them out. We stayed there for a few more hours, clearing up and making sure that all of the fires, coals, and anything remotely hot was buried and put out. After that, we bagged up the items that survived the fire and got the heck out of there. Determined to finish out camping the weekend, I took the family home and set up another tent in the backyard. This went smoothly, and there were no major incidents to report. After this happened, I thought a lot of how it happened. This is something I should have anticipated, but hindsight is always 20/20. The area we were in had a lot of pine trees, and the needles were all over the ground. I had cleared an area of about 6 feet for the fire, but outside of that, it was thick pine needles. When I put water on the fire, it clearly was not put out, and my guess is that when the wind blew, a hot coal blew over and landed on the pine needle ground cover. From here it went up in flames, and I just can't believe how lucky I am that the fire was able to be contained and that the whole forest did not burn down. Well, thanks for reading, and next time you go camping, please make sure your fire is all the way out. I'm sure someone in a similar situation may not be as lucky as I was. Edit. I had a question about the dirt road. I referred to a dirt road twice, once when we parked, and once when my wife and kids were standing. The road we parked on was meant for cars and trucks, but there was a small dirt access road for ATVs and other small vehicles that ran by our campsite. Edit. Adding this comment since a lot of people are asking. We did call the ranger station and made them aware of what happened. I appreciate it. I did call the ranger station and let them know what happened. The ranger kept saying how lucky we were that it was able to be contained. I gave him the exact location, and he said we'd have someone head out there and take a look. 2. This currently just happened as I'm in class right now. So what I thought would be a normal day clearly wasn't. So my first period starts at 8:10 a.m. and I live about 10 minutes away from it, so I usually wake up 30 minutes prior to eat, do anything I need to do, etc. I woke up today a bit earlier, around 7:20 a.m. and thought, hey, I might as well treat myself for working so little lately. So I went back to sleep. Insert FU. I still have all my clothes in the washer, still wet, and nothing sorted out. I woke up at 8 a.m. with no clothes, and no idea where anything was. First instinct was to put some clothes on. But I have none, they're all in the washer. I sprinted up the stairs to the washer, grabbed a sweater and a pair of shorts, threw them in the dryer. It's a new washer, so I have no idea how to use. I have 20 seconds of punching buttons, it turned on. While this is drying, I run downstairs and get my books for my first period. I grab my stuff and run back upstairs. This is all happening in my boxers and mismatched socks. Now I'm a little concerned on time. I check my phone, and it's now 8:04 a.m. I realize that I had to leave now at a chance of being on time. I take my sweater and shorts, still wet, weighing 4,000 pounds. I put my shoes on and head out the door. I start walking and start to feel the heat beating down on my wet clothes. I check the time, and I see that it's 8:06 a.m. I now have 4 minutes to walk, 10 minutes. So I took off and started to run. This is occurring with people walking, driving, walking their dogs, children. So it's a little embarrassing running at my magnitude in front of a bunch of random people. So I'm arriving near the school and assume I can start walking because I'm about 30 seconds away. I enter the school and I can still see everyone chilling. I'm walking to my class and I overhear a teacher say that class starts at 8:30. I hear this, I'm just flabbergasted. I'm by my class in wet clothes that weigh as if I have 10 jackets on. I'm on fire because this school has no air conditioning and my hair is a mess. I drag myself to the washroom and use the hand dryer to dry my clothes. Feels bad, man. Edit. Today's schedule is different because of an assembly, so the day was pushed up a bit, so it started later. 3. My brother Scott gives great Christmas presents. I will get to the Christmas present later in the story, but Brother Scott, thank you very much. I bought a newer bass boat this week. I didn't plan on buying another boat, but have a friend that needed to sell due to health reasons. I love my current bass boat. Bought it new in 2001. Have an awesome remote control trolling motor on it. And have never had a single problem with it. It still runs good, doesn't leak, and everything on the boat works and works well. I have also caught thousands of fish on it in the last 15 years, but I digress. I am now the owner of a 2014 Tracker Pro Guide Combo Deep V 17.5 foot bass boat, ski boat. It is a beautiful boat, runs over 40 miles per hour, courtesy of the 115 horsepower Mercury 4 Stoke it totes. So while maybe not as convenient for fishing, it is going to be great for pulling people in a tube. I really like the new boat, except I like the 24 volt remote controlled trolling motor on my old boat better than the 12 volt trolling motor on the new boat. So I decided before selling the old boat on Craigslist, I would swap out the trolling motors. I noticed the carpet of the old boat had some holes in it that the wood was showing through, so I decided it would sell better if I replaced the worn areas. So off to Lowe's I go, purchased some new outdoor marine carpeting, some waterproof carpet glue, and a box cutter with a lot of blades. I cut, pulled, jerked, laying on the floor cramped the whole time cutting out the old carpet. This project took around 6 hours of laying in the floor of my old boat. I eventually got the old stuff out, cut the new stuff in and glued it down. And it looks a lot better. Really needed my buddy Lou and his carpet experience, but think you would be proud of the job I did. Except for one little inch gap where the knife took a mind of its own. Gives character is what I say. So now time for the trolling motor switch. I came to the realization as I started the project, removing both motors seemed like an appropriate first step. I didn't know how to convert a boat from 12 volts to 24 volts, or from 24 volts to 12 volts. So off to the internet I went. After watching several videos and reading reams of articles on how to, I finally broke down and bought a 12 to 24 volt conversion kit, as this seemed the easiest way. And easy sounded good after laying in both boats and reaching farther than a human should have to reach, in all sorts of cracks and crevices, to remove both trolling motors. This was another 8 hours of laying on the floor of the boats. Anyway, was so happy yesterday when my conversion kit arrived via UPS. I took my prize track conversion kit, bought from a company, Track, out of Tennessee, to the basement and opened it like it was Christmas Day. Lots of pieces. Some made sense, others looked like something from NASA. But I knew the big instruction manual would help me sort it all out. I started reading the instruction manual, and it was the foreign language part, so I skipped forward looking for the English part. Well, I would still be looking. The instruction manual they sent was in French. The entire thing was in French. French. Out of Tennessee. Not English. Not even Spanish, that I could have at least mostly read. So off to Cabela's I go this morning. Right to the trolling motor counter where the experts reside. I even took a few of the pieces with me that I had taken off the boat, as I knew I needed something different, but didn't know what. The guy behind the counter acted like I was speaking Chinese or maybe French, and had no idea what I needed. But he said Mark was the expert, so he paged Mark to the counter. Well, Mark started to answer. I think his answer was, "Yeah, those look like the parts you need." I said, "These? This is what I took off the boat. They don't work to convert from 24 to 12 and 12 to 24. He says, "You know what you need to do. You have a service center just down the road where they actually do this kind of stuff. Why don't you go down there and talk to John?" Oh boy. Well, at least I get to talk to someone that does this for a living. So me and my arm full of parts head down the road to the service center. I walk inside toting my stuff and see a guy who has a big smile on his face. I think Mark called and warned him I was coming. I said, "Are you John?" He says, "Yes." I then tell him my story. Bought a new boat, converting it to 24 volt and moving my good trolling motor to it. Moving my other trolling motor to the other boat and converting it from 24 volt to 12 volt. Then selling it. And thought it would be something I could do myself, but couldn't figure out which parts I needed. Well, John laughed. And I mean he laughed hard. He laughed like a redneck listening to Jeff Foxworthy for the very first time. He belly laughed. His face turned red from laughing. I thought I might have to call the paramedics, and he hadn't even heard about the French instruction manual. He finally gathered himself and said, "You're doing what?" Except he didn't get it all out as he started laughing again. Well, to make a long story shorter, he started telling me all the stuff I needed, and how I had to run new 8-gauge wire the whole length of the boat. I need a crimper, I need to strip wires and connect them with splicers. I finally stopped him and asked what he would charge if I just brought the boats to him and had them do it. He laughed even harder this time, said he would love to help me, but they were 3 weeks out. I told him that was probably quicker than I was going to get it done, and it would at least work when they did it. He laughed even harder yet. I will tell you, this John guy had a sense of humor. Well, in the end, I walked out with a couple $100 of parts and a migraine. Again, in the interest of time and to get back to Scott's Christmas gift. Yes, that is really what the story is about. I started working on the old boat first, Figured if I messed up, I would just push it to deep water and sink it. 6 more hours of laying in the old boat, running wires in nooks and crevices, drilling holes in my boat, which seemed like a bad idea, hoping it wouldn't sink, but secretly not caring if it did. 4 trips to Lowe's to buy parts that John forgot I needed, or maybe I only needed because of my method of assembly. I completed the project on boat number 1. I took it for a test drive, and amazingly enough, everything worked. Proud of my amazing accomplishment, I took a bunch of pictures and immediately came inside and listed it on Craigslist. Well, not immediately, as for me, listing something on Craigslist took over an hour. But I got that sucker listed, and no one has ever been more proud of a Craigslist listing than I was. Went and watched Huddy play soccer and forgot my phone. When I got home, I had multiple calls from people wanting my boat. Thought it is amazing. They all want to know if I will take less, and they haven't even seen the boat in person. Maybe they talked to John. Well, one guy was insistent, so we reached a verbal agreement for him to buy my boat tomorrow, and at only a slight discount from my list price. He said he was coming over at 9 a.m. to pick it up after a test drive. Well, there was about 10 minutes left before pitch dark, so I decided I'd better go out and test the navigational lights, as I haven't used them in a couple of years. This is where the story gets interesting. This boat has a ton of storage area, and I knew I had seen the lights somewhere during the day, but I couldn't find them. Finally found the light for the back of the boat, and continued my search for the small light that goes up front. There is a storage area under the passenger seat. The whole bench lifts forward. I opened it up, no light, but did find the piece that braces up the motor when you have it on the trailer, so it was good to know where it was. I reached to pick it up, and stopped, as there was a shed snakeskin stuck to it. Being deathly afraid of snakes, I know that wasn't there when I put it away, but I didn't figure the prospective buyer was going to be real excited to see it when he inspected the boat tomorrow. So I gritted my teeth, and reached in and grabbed the shed and pulled on it. My intent was to jerk it out quick and toss it overboard. Kind of like a 5-second roll thing. Well, as I jerked on it, I saw movement from the back corner of the storage area. Movement as in the snake wasn't totally done shedding his skin, and I had jerked it off him, her, and she tried to bite me. Only my quick tug and toss kept me from getting bit. I have mentioned I am scared of snakes. Really, really scared? Well, now I have a huge ticked-off snake in the boat. The one I am supposed to sell and take for a test drive in 12 hours. Several things went through my mind in about a half second. Jump in the water. No snake may come in the water too. Did I mention it was now pretty much dark? Run. Where do you run in a boat? Shut the storage bench, trap the snake, and move to Canada. Well, the snake got in there somehow with it shut, so I am guessing he can't get out. I would rather be able to see where he goes so I can go somewhere else. And Canada is cold. My cell phone. Aha! The one I almost left inside, but took it in case someone else called about the boat. I can call 911. Wait. That would be an awkward conversation, and not sure about the response time, even if I could talk them into coming. Mary, yeah, that's it. Call Mary. She is inside within 40 feet of me. Probably already heard me crap my pants. I will call her. She can bring the shotgun, or the deer rifle. Wait, that won't work. She doesn't know how to load either one. Probably doesn't know the difference between the two. And shooting the snake is going to sink the boat with me in it. With the snake. I get her on the phone, tell her to immediately bring me a flashlight, the hoe, and, wait for it, the huge machete-sized knife that Scott gave me for Christmas. She says, "Where's the knife?" I say it's in the office closet with my guns. It's the only place it would fit. You can't miss it. So here she comes, flashlight in hand, hoe in hand, struggling under the weight of the world's largest knife. She stops 10 feet from the boat, and says, "Okay, now what?" She wanted no part of this at all. I felt like a guy that plays the drums, the harmonica, and cymbals at the same time. Flashlight and hoe in one hand, world's largest knife in the other. Only adrenaline giving me the ability to use all three at once. I shined the light on the snake that is now coiled in the very far corner. It did not like having a flashlight in its eyes. It got real active when it moved away. I couldn't get to it with the hoe. So flashlight in my mouth, hoe in the left hand, and WLK, world's largest knife, in the other. I raked, hoed the snake from the corner, pinned it down with the hoe, and took a shot at cutting its head off, with the WLK. Well, WLK is not WSN, world's sharpest knife, and smacking a large, ticked-off snake with a dull knife makes the snake much more angry. Change of tactics is called for. I stabbed the snake in the head. The point must have been very sharp, as I pinned the snake to the bottom with the WLK and held it there until it bled to death, and sawed most of his head off. After making sure it was dead, no, I didn't take a pulse, I then tossed it in the water. It was a good 4-foot-long copperhead. Venomous. So to wrap up this book, I now have a huge blood stain on the carpet in the storage area that looks like I have been transporting dead bodies and sinking them in the lake. No biggie, except I have to explain it somehow to the potential buyer tomorrow. Snakes stink. A half can of Lysol on my boat still smells like a porta potty. I laid in the boat for the better part of 2 days. That snake could have done bad things to me. I may not sleep for a month. Oh, and after all of this, the lights didn't work. I really don't care, as the price of the boat is very negotiable at this point. I no longer like my old boat. So, Brother Scott, thanks for the Christmas present. It saved my life. As soon as I figure out how to get the snake blood off of it, it will be sharpened in case of future need. Oh, and tomorrow I have to finish off boat number 2. Unless I sell it as well. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to TIFU Episode 3. You know, these things are pretty hard to put together, so it's definitely not going to be a weekly thing. Think of it more of an occasional surprise. Big thanks to all the people who let me use their stories. I am very appreciative of that. Okay, heading into next week, Sunday will be True Scary Stories, Monday will also be. Then I gotta be honest with you, I haven't got a clue what the rest of the week is going to be yet, because my brain's kind of scattered at the moment. But there will indeed be uploads. I'll keep you guys informed as we kind of, go through the days. Okay, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.